Hey guys, back with another Q&A today. Let's just jump right into it. First question is, how do you maintain composure with heavy weights? How do you stay calm with 700 pounds in your back? I think the answer is simply just practice. This is why I'm a big advocate for heavy singles, or at the very least, have a heavy top set with low reps so you get used to these heavier weights. The more experienced you are of having closer to your max, 90% plus on your back, the more comfortable it's going to be, the more routine, the less you're going to worry. That's a big part of it. Another part is making sure you're at the proper arousal level for yourself. So for me, I like to get really hyped up before my lifts. So I have a routine to get me hyped up. I have songs I listen to. I use smelling salts. So on Smelling Salts, my sponsor, wearing their shirt right now. Great product. You can click the link below to get it on my Amazon page, by the way. But yeah, just getting your proper arousal level will help you a ton. So, and that doesn't mean necessarily you have to be somebody who gets super hyped up. You don't have to get super hyped up. Some people perform better staying really calm. That's fine too. Practice getting into that proper arousal level for you and you'll see huge benefits. I've also seen people do heavy walkouts on squats. I'm not convinced one way or another if they work, but you could try them out. I don't think there's too much harm in trying. Personally, my view is I wouldn't do it because I think that'd just be like, knowing I'm not going to have to squat it, I just have to walk it out. It's like, wouldn't benefit me personally, but each person's different. Next question, what is my best strict press overhead? So I haven't been doing like standing OHP for a while. Back in my prep for Worlds in 2019, I used to do them a lot, but it just started hurting my back a bit and I feel like fatigue in my SI joint and I didn't think it was worth it. So I just swapped up to seated dumbbell press instead. Works same muscles, and for somebody who doesn't need to specifically OHP, works fine. So my best set was, I did a 3x5 with 175 pounds, and I did keep it strict, no leg drive. Back then my bench was around 365, and now it's at 405 for a double. So yeah, that's what my best strict overhead press is. So next question, when you first started off your training, what was your process and the reps and weight you use? So as I explained in my programming history video, my first program was starting strength. So it's basically just 3x5, straight 3x5. You start with really lightweight, add 5 pounds per week. That's it. In general though, the programs I did at the start after that, all basically I focused on low reps, lots of sets, heavy weights. So the next question is, I'm competing in my first meet soon. Any tips, advice? And this is something I could do a whole video on. But I have 3 main things. First, if you can find somebody to handle you, if you don't know what that is, handler is basically like a game day coach you're allowed to have. Sometimes you're allowed 1, sometimes you're allowed 2. But yeah, if you can get a handler or handlers who have done a meet in the federation specifically that you're competing in, that's going to be a huge benefit and I definitely recommend it. They're going to help so much, make it so smooth. Nothing else will help you more. Second, read the rule book in depth multiple times. Okay, so that's something I didn't do my first meet. I didn't read the rules in depth enough. So I showed up and I didn't know I had to have specific type of underwear to lift in. And I didn't have them. I didn't know I had to have long socks to deadlift in. I didn't know there's a specific rack height you need to get, the rack on the platform, and you have to make sure the rack height you're getting in the warm-up room is the right rack. Like stuff like that, like you'd never think of if you've never done a meet before. So read the rule book thoroughly to make sure you know what you're going to need on the game day. Third, just limit stress as much as possible. I say have fun the first meet. Like you can still go for big numbers, but don't like take it like so super seriously. A lot of people say don't cut weight. I think you can cut weight, but like again, just try and minimize stress. If you are fine with just having a meet where you don't go all out, that would be really helpful just to learn the process. So yeah, that's my 3 main tips for your first meet. So what are your thoughts on deadlifting and squatting in the same day? Personally, I don't like it. I used to do it, and I think there is something to be said for the specificity benefits. In a meet, you're going to have to squat and deadlift on the same day. So during meet prep, occasionally, I'll have a couple days where I'm doing squats and deadlifts on the same day. But for the bulk of my training, I like to have my squats and deadlifts on separate days. And the reason is, I just find it lets you focus each lift better. If I'm always squatting before my deadlifts, which I used to do for a while, I just found my deadlift workouts suffered because I'm basically pre-fatigued. But letting myself go all out on a specific deadlift day, focus my lower body energy there, and then do the same on squats other days, I found I got much better training results for my deadlift doing that. Next question, how do I usually program progressive overload? And I talked about this in my last video, my program, well, not my last video, but my last long video. I do something called a Hepburn progression, where basically I work up a rep range over 3 weeks. You can do a different time span. But for example, week 1 would be, say, 4 reps on a certain exercise. Week 2 would be 5 reps. Week 3 would be 6 reps. And then week 4, you reset back to 4 reps, but you add more weight. In my case, 2.5 kilos or 5 pounds. That's how I do my progressive overload. I find it's a really sustainable way to progress for several weeks and really build up to something, since once you get to a higher level, you know, like at a beginner, you may be able to add 5 pounds a week like you do on starting strength. But once you get into a more intermediate level, and then advanced level too, it's not the same. You can't just add that week to week. So that's what I use. So next question is, how do you go from a 500 to a 600 pound squat? Now, the things that will make your squat improve at any strength level are generally going to apply at all other strength levels. But in general, as you get stronger, there are some programming changes you should consider. Now, contrary to popular belief, beyond the beginner level of motor learning, the majority of strength gains actually come from increased hypertrophy, not neurological gains, aka skill. So as you get more advanced, I think you should devote more effort to hypertrophy, which a lot of people think it's the other way around. But I think you should focus more on hypertrophy the higher level you get. So that's one thing. Also, the thing to keep in mind is as you get to a higher absolute load, in general, you're not going to be able to do as much volume. That's something a lot of people realize. So you have like an ideal volume range where you're going to get the maximal bang for your buck, the most progress in total. And if you go above that, you're going to cause excess fatigue and you're not going to get the best training result. So if you keep the same volume level as you get stronger, you're going to go closer and closer to outside that optimal zone. You know, you're going to be under recovering more and not getting the best results. So those are the two main things to keep in mind. Focus more on hypertrophy, but also keep in mind that your volume, the total fatigue from higher weights, is going to increase. So next question, is lifting / coaching your full-time job? And yeah, it is. Selling programs, YouTube ad revenue, and a bit of money from sponsorships and selling stuff. That's how I make my income. So next question, what was the most useful and efficient training method you used, and what was the biggest waste of time? So the most useful is always going to be a program, I think, customized to you. That can be by yourself. There's tons of resources to learn about programming online. So if you can learn to program for yourself, that's one way, or you can get a coach to do it for you. I don't really need to talk about how coaches work, but for programming for yourself, a great way to start is get a good, solid pre-existing program, like say Candido 6-week, and run that, and then make some modifications cycle to cycle, things that you think will benefit you based on what you've learned. So say you know that your bench press is weak at lockout, and then you find out, okay, triceps are important for locking out a bench press. Next cycle, I'm going to put in more close grip bench pressing, etc. Stuff like that. See what works and what doesn't, and just tweak cycle to cycle. That's the simplest way to program for yourself and see huge improvements. So the second part of the question, what was the biggest waste of time? For me, starting strength. It did work really well in the beginning, but it got obsolete really quick. And I think a lot of these low volume programs that you see, that's just the biggest waste of time. I feel like a lot of people spend their time doing too little volume when they should be doing a lot more, especially accessory work volume for hypertrophy in terms of powerlifting. Next question, what are my top 3 gym songs? So I'll say my PR song for each lift. On squats, I've always listened to Here to Stay by Korn. That's basically been my squat PR song for like 5 years, 6 years even. Great hype song, love it for squatting. For bench press, it's basically whatever my favorite rap song is at the moment, so it varies a ton. Right now, I don't even know what I would say. Maybe Trapped in the Sun by Future. Deadlifts, I basically always listen to In Ashes They Shall Reap by Hatebreed for my PR song. Sometimes I listen to Thieves by Limp Bizkit, but yeah, mainly In Ashes They Shall Reap by Hatebreed. So next question, somebody asked, what are the best bulking foods? And they're not technically foods, but I think liquid calories is a really easy way to bulk. I find it's just way easier to down some liquid calories with a meal rather than add extra food. So just stuff like milk. I'm fine with stuff that's sugary, like juices, or Gatorades, as long as I think you keep it close to your workouts. So the sugars are going to be used primarily for fueling muscles rather than just in your bloodstream and just reducing your insulin sensitivity. That's not a good thing. But yeah, if you keep those near workouts, I think that's good. Easiest way, liquid calories. I also think fats tend to be easier to get calories in with, like just adding, like even just adding a bit of oil or butter to a meal, you know, really easy way to get 100 or even 200 extra calories in with basically very little effect on how full you feel. This is sort of off topic, but related. I think oats are a terrible bulking food. I know so many people are like, oh, if you're bulking, you should eat oats. I've never thought that at all. Like 300 calories of oats for me will keep me full for like several hours perfectly fine. And 300 calories is not a lot. Like, I don't know how oats got known as a bulking food, but I just think they're a terrible bulking food, especially if you're cooking them in water and not milk, getting that extra milk calories. Like that's, I could see maybe if you're dousing them in like brown sugar and honey and getting a ton of simple carbs that way, but that's like also like just dirty bulking. Like it's not really like defeating the purpose of having oats anyways. Like why not just have the sugar and the honey? It's much easier. Yeah, oats suck. I'm gonna be canceled by Big Oat now. So next question, do I do anything with diet or supplements that isn't super obvious? So something that I think isn't talked about enough is how much sodium can affect your performance. You want lots of sodium if you're an athlete, especially pre-workout. I think that's not talked about enough how beneficial it is. I know there's some people who do talk about it, but like if you try getting something really salty before your workouts, try it and I think you'll see a noticeable difference. Same thing goes for potassium. That's important. If you know about physiology, you know how important sodium and potassium ions are in muscle contraction and nervous transmission. So getting those in, I think, makes a huge benefit. I'm a big fan of vitamin D. I take a vitamin D supplement every day, and I eat a diet high in vitamin D. I think the world in general just does not get enough vitamin D. So doing that, I think, can just, not even just lifting, but just how you feel in general, big benefit from that. I like to emphasize getting vitamin B12 too, because it's important for protein synthesis. So if you're a lifter, I think that's important. I don't know how well known this is, but spacing out your protein and getting roughly 40 grams of protein spread out throughout the day every 3 or so hours. It keeps something called muscle protein signaling, which is basically your body building proteins. Keeps it high. That's something that's really important. I think can have huge benefits. So if you can space out your protein intake across the day, I try and do that. I think it's really beneficial. Next question, is the Rogue Ohio Power Bar the best or a good bar to train for a comp with? As long as you're doing a stiff bar meet, absolutely. I think that's probably the best bang for your buck, quality for price product there is. It's very similar in stiffness to any competition bar, and it's only like $300 US. Very affordable, great choice. I can also vouch for the Bells of Steel bar. It's the bar I bought during quarantine. It's not sponsorship or ads or anything. I'm not benefiting anything from it, but I've used it and I can vouch for it. Very good. I think it's a bit cheaper than Rogue, and yeah, I'd vouch for either of those bars. So next question is advice for people who have issues with excessive forward lean in the squat. So before I get into my answer, I want to say a lot of times excessive forward lean isn't necessarily an issue. A lot of people may be built to squat with a ton of forward lean. You can see lots of world record holder squatters who good morning the hell out of it. Look at Vlad Alhazov. He squats so bent over, it's basically a good morning. And it works. You know, if you have really long femurs, it might just be the case that that's how you're meant to squat. Accept it and plan your training accordingly. Try and work that motor pattern and work the muscles that are going to be worked excessively with that squat pattern, which would be your posterior chain. If it is more just a form error, you're just collapsing completely, I think the best way to look at it is think from the knees. And it might not be obvious to think that, but a lot of times what causes it is your knees shoot back out of the hole, which causes your hips to shoot back, which is going to push you forward. If you just do the movement in the air, put your knees back while you're midway in a squat, and you'll see that you end up leaning forward a ton. So I think if you think to actively push your knees forwards and out and not let them come back out of the hole, that will really help solve your issues with excessive forward lean in the squat. Another thing you can do is just place the bar higher on your back. Might be more optimal for you, it might not, but typically the higher up the bar is on your back, the less forward lean you need to maintain balance. Next question, why did I start lifting? I started lifting because I wanted to get girls with big muscles. And 7 years later, with hundreds of pounds added to my maxes, that was obviously a complete failure. I basically added no muscle. Look at my comments, how many people say I don't even look like I lift. But at least I'm good at powerlifting now. Next question said, core training. Say stuff about core training. I don't think it's really necessary for powerlifting. I don't. I think you get enough core work in your specific variations. I don't think excess core work is necessarily harmful, but I think your time and energy would be better spent elsewhere. If you're somebody who wants big core muscles or a strong core for the sake of it, go ahead. Next question, do you think I could beat Guy Cisternino in a fight, aka the guy throwing the temper tantrum in that video I posted? I don't know. Let's have a pre-card bout before Eddie and Thor. It can be the, what do they call it? I don't watch boxing. The pre-card, right? Me versus Guy Cisternino. Who do you guys bet on? Leave a comment below. So that's basically it, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on notifications. Helps me build the channel a ton. Again, comment below other questions you want me to go over in long videos. I was working on a sumo deadlift guide here in my basically home gym. It's really my living room that I have some stuff in. But I realized with the stuff I have, I don't have a tripod. So it was really hard to get good angles. And anyways, I'm gonna order a tripod and make how to squat, how to deadlift, how to bench tutorials. Talking about stuff I do and the stuff I think beginners should do. And yeah, that's basically it, guys. Again, thanks for watching.